Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you guys are doing well and staying safe and healthy. Anyways, this video is about identity crisis. I'm going to be talking about it. I'm not necessarily trying to spoil anything, just kind of giving you my opinions on it. And then also, of course, if you guys are interested in the book once it's over, I will be leaving a link in my description below. So, obviously, identity crisis. First thing you see on the cover is a bunch of uniforms hung up, almost as if people have kind of left them. But not only that, you can see like Batman's cowl is kind of like touched over, and it's honestly quite the depressing cover, and that is quite appropriate for this story. This story is, as I said earlier to my roommates, it is dark, it is gritty, it is everything you want in a DC story. So basically, not gonna say who, but someone gets murdered early on in the film. Someone related to or important to a unnamed hero in this entire novel or book. And so it kind of just makes people think, okay, well, what if there's this person who knows all the secret identities? Then all of a sudden there's the worry of, is someone else in trouble? Is someone else at risk? And this entire book you're reading through, you're just trying to figure out, okay, who could this person be? And like you're just kind of sitting there, like you're pondering, and you read. You're when you're reading, you're analyzing alongside, Batman, the greatest detective. You're witnessing Wally as the Flash, more mature than when he first started out. I'd like to think, um, and it brings into question so many things, the ethics behind being a superhero, the risks you have to take in order to be a superhero, um, the not so good side parts of being a superhero. Like, I find that a lot of our stories, um, you know, not including like Heroes in Crisis. Heroes in Crisis is another great story with a similar kind of tone, mystery, murder, who done it kind of thing, but also like getting dark and gritty, talking about mental health. But Identity Crisis gets a little bit more into what are heroes willing to do to save their loved ones and to keep their identities secret. Hence, Identity Crisis. Um, this book itself gets referenced quite a few times. It gets referenced in the Infinite Crisis event, in the Blackest Night event. So both of those events bring up this event and what occurred in it. Kind of touch on it, highlight it, and really just kind of it's nothing necessary, but I think there are a couple of pages that if you didn't read this book, it'd be a little confusing to be reading Infinite Crisis. Then again, that book in itself is confusing, so much context. So I'll be getting into that um, in another video. But basically, this book, I'll try to find some images that don't spoil anything. But the art style I thought was pretty solid. You've got some variant covers in here by Jim Lee as well. Let's see here. So we got Deathstroke, got Doctor Light there. Another thing I will say though is that if you are going to read this book, I do want to give a heads up. There is some content in here that I think could be triggering for anyone who hasn't read it before. There is references to events in the past. I don't think that have ever been covered before, but are just kind of being like unlocked now, referring to sexual assault and stuff like that. So there are some darker themes in this book. So I figured I'd give a heads up on that. This book basically it shows the human side of even the most alien superheroes like Superman, Martian Manhunter. Like it shows the emotions, the connections. It really makes you relate to or connect with these heroes on a level that you might have not thought possible. Because when you're reading a Superman comic, it's like it's cool, but he's an alien. How much can you really relate to an alien? I think that's one thing that they've definitely tried to do in any stories that he's been in is try to make him relatable. But then there's that God factor, right? And I think that's why I relate more with people like like Batman or Barry Allen. Those are more human superheroes. And I think in a lot of ways, though, um, this book helps you kind of connect on that level with all of the main heroes, even some side heroes that you're not familiar with. The events in here also do result in some deaths of heroes that are referenced in Blackest Night, so it's kind of important that you read this if you're going to read Blackest Night, just for some context. Um, but overall, like this book, it shows it doesn't even show not just the emotions or the personalities of the heroes you're reading about, but it shows the politics behind the JLA, and all the things that they try to hide from the public in terms of, like, oh, there were disagreements within the JLA, but now you're kind of just seeing it. You're seeing it at face value. You're seeing dark secrets unfolding, things being exposed about heroes you never thought hero could ever want to do or ever could have had to do. Um, and most importantly, all while this is going on, you're trying to figure out who the killer is. You're just like, who is this person? And there's so many little twists and turns. At first you think you know who it is, then you don't. And at the end of the book, when they tell you who it is, it just makes sense. Whenever I usually watch mystery movies or anything like that, murder mysteries, I usually can pick up pretty early on who it is. There's a lot of like subtle giveaways and stuff like that, stuff that kind of gives away the entire story. Um, but this book did an excellent job at hiding exactly who was the killer, and it was really impressive, to be completely honest. If you're looking to pick up this book and you're wondering if there's any required reading, in my personal opinion, there isn't really initial required reading for this book. I mean, like, they do like reference things subtly and like maybe for one page, but that is it. Afterwards, you are in this book. You're basically watching the story unfold, and I don't think there's any really required reading. If you really wanted to, you could pick up this novel and just read it in one shot, and that could be the story for you. You just read it and you enjoyed it, and that's it. You don't have to read Infinite Crisis or Blackest Night afterwards. Like, this book comes full circle. It completes a satisfying story. It honestly, it really does mess with you. Like, it tricks you into thinking you know who it is. There are some pages that when you flip, your jaw just drops because you are like, holy crap, that's insane. I can't believe they put that in a DC comic. Like, there is some really dark stuff in here, which I think is missing from a lot of comics today. I find that a lot of my favorite comics are ones that are more down to earth and relatable. We've got Watchmen, we've got Heroes in Crisis. Both of those stories show the darker sides of what it means to be a superhero. The everyday things that people have to deal with. Another thing that recent media that's released that I believe truly does cover that is the new Superman and Lois TV show. I watched the first episode and I'm blown away at how they're able to portray Superman. Just saying. Complete side note, but I love it. But yeah, Identity Crisis, it does so much for the characters in the story. It sets up future events or contents of like little bits and pieces of future events that get referenced in them. So it develops characters. It's a great murder mystery. If you want to pick it up and read it on the spot, you are more than welcome to do that because, in my opinion, there isn't any really required reading for this. All you really need to know is that at one point Superman died and then came back. Death and Return of Superman. I think everyone's fully aware of that situation, but that is pretty much it because it gets touched on for like one page. But yeah, Brad Meltzer and Rags Morales, excellent work. I gotta say. Now, I'll show you some of the art because I want to make sure. I don't know. There's just so much going on in this story that it's really hard to find a page that doesn't give away too much. It's like every page, it works towards something for the most part. The art in these stories is actually pretty impressive. I gotta say, I'm blown away by it. And something that's interesting too. I remember looking at these faces and being like, they seem vaguely familiar, but also not. Like, this art style is different. At the end of the book, they talk about who they used as references for the faces of the heroes. They use celebrities. So that was interesting to me. I thought that was kind of cool. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. Nightwing had Johnny Depp as a reference. Who else? Let's see if I can find someone that I know pretty well. Oh yeah, Flash Wally West was his face was modeled after Brad Pitt. Um, so that was interesting. I thought that was pretty cool. Calculator was based off of James Woods. Um, quite a few, quite a few celebrities in here that the characters were based off of. So I thought that was kind of. But I love the art style. Ultimately, it's a solid art style. I do love it. I flipped through this book and I just loved every single page. Like I was in the zone reading this story. It just had me hooked from like beginning to end. No doubt about it. Um, and another thing too is it shows the human side of even the most brooding characters like Batman. You know, you really get to see that about him, and you get to see who Batman is a little bit better. I'd like to say, I'd like to think at least, and I think Heroes in Crisis does that as well. Um, like there's this one page in Heroes in Crisis where he just sits down and he's talking to like the therapy simulator or whatever, and he's just basically like, I train partners to help me in crime fighting, and they end up dying. And he starts to tear up. Like he takes off his cowl for it and everything. He starts to tear up, and then he just stops crying, walks up, and it's like you just see that little blip of humanity in Bruce that normally no one gets to see. And I think that's also quite prevalent in the Identity Crisis story. This book itself, at regular price, goes for 26 Canadian or 20 US dollars. Overall, honestly, it's pretty well priced. I'd pick it up for that price, but I'm pretty sure it's a little bit cheaper on sites like Amazon. It's also fairly easy to find in most comic book stores. I'd like to think it's a bit older, but it's also I'd like to think it's a popular read. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I would 100% recommend this book. In my opinion, this could be one of my favorite DC comics I've ever read. Story arcs, um, and like I mean that entirely. Like this is probably one of my favorite stories of DC. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. If you enjoyed this video, not the COVID pandemic, be sure to subscribe. You know, leave a comment. What do you think I should be reviewing in the future? And apparently, I guess YouTube has issues with notifications. So if you like my videos a lot, then hit the notification bell at your own leisure. But yeah, previous videos that I've done, if you're interested in seeing them, I've done Brightest Day, and then the first two Geoff Johns Omnibuy for Green Lantern. So yeah, thank you guys for watching the videos. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for all the new subscribers that have joined on recently. You have been noticed, trust me. I really do appreciate the constant love and support and the feedback from you guys. So yeah, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.